This is the Amp Hour Podcast, recorded January 23rd, 2012. Episode 79, Ludibrious Luxating Layout.
Welcome to the Amp Hour. I'm Dave Jones from the EEV blog.
And I'm Chris Gamble of Chris Gamble's Analog Life.
Happy Chinese New Year, Chris.
All right, I'm going to try this. Here we go. 新年快乐. Eh?
That's impressive.
Yeah,
I am not
you
even
too.
going to try that. So happy Chinese New Year, or as everyone else who's not Chinese in the hardware industry says, oh shit, we can't get our parts.
Yep, that's what Freak Labs posted on Twitter the other day. It was awesome. It's true, though. I mean, like, it just shuts down. I mean, it's just gone for 2 weeks off the map.
You always forget about it.
Yeah, exactly. February? What's going on? Oh, no. And it seems like it gets longer every year, too, you know?
Yeah, I know. I think they're off for 12 days or something. A lot of companies are shutting down for like almost 2 weeks. And my PCB card is shut down, and I was ordering some parts from Alibaba last night, and they were shutting down. Oh, yeah, we'll happily take your order, but we'll ship it in 2 weeks' time.
You get it when you get it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What was the site you're talking about? Alibaba? What's that?
Alibaba. It's a Chinese component sourcing website.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's huge. It's the Chinese equivalent of like an eBay kind of thing, except it's not really an auction site. It's
more like a DigiKey, but like a shady DigiKey.
But it's got all the different manufacturers. It's got all the different suppliers. Sorry, and
Any problems with it ever?
Get dodgy Chinese components, you know.
You ever get any bum ones coming through there? I mean,
I haven't. No, they've been pretty good actually.
Oh, that's good.
So yeah. Whether or not you're getting genuine parts is another issue entirely. You know, some parts
so they work, but not necessarily with the
some
brand
are higher
that's
risk
listed
than
or
others,
whatever.
So
Yeah, if it's an LED, your test is does it turn on? If it's if it's
exactly.
an Atmel like 324 or something like that, you're a little more complex, right?
Yeah, exactly. Your offset voltage, might be a bit dodgy over temperature.
Yeah,
or something. Oh boy,
buy kits from EEV blog, everybody.
Oh
boy,
it's hilarious. And but it seems a bit like, because you just started the new year, right? You're just back, and your project, is back on schedule, and you got to finish the damn thing, and all of a sudden, bam, it hits you. It's Chinese New Year, and you just get caught short, and you always forget about it. And and Murphy's Law says it's when you need something urgent from your Chinese PCB manufacturer.
Yeah, and what I wonder is, eventually, because cultures continue to get intertwined, it's a cultural thing as well.
Yeah.
But, eventually, you got to figure, if business is that entwined too, maybe someday businesses might have off. Freelancers such as yourself won't, but, large corporations that are dependent on it, maybe there's a significant reason for that. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Well, they don't. They don't. Well, they shut down, but most of them I found always say, if you really have urgent needs, contact us, and we'll charge you a buttload of money, and we'll find some poor bastard who's willing to actually stay back over the holiday period and do your work for you.
It's like working over Christmas here. You can get it done,
exactly, same thing.
Not the best
you can
idea.
do it. Oh, yeah, I've done that. There I am, Christmas Eve, 10 o'clock, working on working on a work project because it's so mega urgent, and the timelines are so ridiculous that...
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, you don't have that problem anymore now with China, right? I saw your boards you just posted on Twitter.
Yes, I did. They turned up. I cannot believe this.
So what was the timeline there?
The date on my board of when I actually laid out the board was the 17th, and what is it today? The 24th here in Sydney.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 24th.
Well, it's 24th here in Sydney. So I laid out, I think I sent them away, so it's Tuesday morning here, and they just turned up on the doorstep. And I think I sent them to Circuit Labs in New Zealand. That's who I got them from, on Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening or sometime on Thursday, I think, and I've got the boards already. It's like they do
Nice.
claim a 4-day turnaround, but, you know, they were doing this special for me. Like, they know who I am and they, you know.
They know you're going to keep talking about it no matter what.
Yeah, they actually
it's working,
approached,
guys.
well, they actually approached me to possibly do some advertising, I think it was, or you know, or something like that. And and I said, hey, you know, I've got a new project coming up, and yeah, it's you know, and they suggested, yeah, we'll send you some boards for your new project. So they've done just that, and they're very nice. I like it. Yes.
Yeah, I like the red silkscreen. That's always a nice touch.
Yeah, that's. I don't think the red's not standard on their standard prototype service, which is through PCBzone.net. It's not through Circuit Labs. Circuit Labs is their more high volume. It's the same company, same fab, but you know, yeah, they just have different websites for different volumes, and their prices aren't bad. I think this one I got is 90 Australian dollars or thereabouts, I think, or is that 90 New Zealand, which might even work out cheaper. I'm not sure. I have to double check that, but that's not far off my original Chinese suppliers'
90
prices.
per board.
That's that's only a one-off board. Whereas if you get IT Studios for $85, those IT Studio ones, I got 5 boards. This
okay,
New
so this
Zealand
is just
mob-
another proto.
They did send me 4 boards, but I'm not sure if that's just because they wanted to show off to me, or whether or not you'd actually get 4. So I'll have to clarify that. But
yeah, but still, $90 for a proto, that's not bad. I mean,
it's pretty good, and they do it in 4 days. That's their claim turnaround.
How many layers? What's the layers of the?
It's only 2. You know, it's only a standard 2-layer board.
Layers.
Yeah.
What about the limits? Is it 6.6? 6 line, 6 space?
Yeah, it might be 6.6 or 5.5 or something like that. 0.3 millimeter hole, something like fairly generic type stuff.
Okay.
And the ones from IT Studios, you could say they're a bit better value, but I waited over a month for those, like 5 weeks or something.
Right.
Like, well,
and that's the
for
ultimate question, right? What's the cost of waiting? I mean,
yeah,
maybe...
well, exactly. I've lost all my enthusiasm for the project in 5 weeks. It's like,
right?
Yeah, exactly. I've moved on to something else.
Yeah, and there's that whole spectrum of, you know, there's the slow boat from China, right? There's always that option, nice and cheap and slow, and then there's the even more extreme past, you know, a quick turn house. There's cut it on your own bench or whatever if you can, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's
and there are significant costs with that in both time and, you know, cost of chemicals or the actual board cutter or whatever.
Well,
so, yeah.
see, when you're talking about $100 for a board, it's not worth an hour of my time to actually do it at home, technically, right?
Right. Well, and especially if you've got, you know, any kind of component that needs, you know, a semi-difficult soldering job, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if you want solder masking, you want plate through holes, and, you know, the ones you make at home are, you know, pretty crusty. They can work, but, you know, you solder your own vias, you know, both sides.
Yeah,
you know, put a little wire through. And
I was trying to sell my coworkers on getting a board cutter because I was looking at those LPKFs. I'm like in money spending mode. I'm looking at 3D printers. Yeah. I'm looking at board cutters because, you know, like they suggest that, like, well, maybe a board cutter makes more sense than a 3D printer, which, you know, very legitimate argument. And the LPKFs, they're beautiful. I mean, they really are.
They're a nice bit of kit.
Yeah, and they even have they'll cut your board, right? And they have 0.1 mil precision, but not accuracy. So that whole argument, right? I got that wrong actually, and people corrected me. But the cool thing is now those things actually they squirt out solder paste in with like an actual XY plotter. Yep. So I didn't realize they were doing that now. So it's not like the squeegee kind. It's just, you know, they drop a dot.
I've done a video actually reviewing one of those, like a $26,000 version of that.
Oh, really?
That dispenses the solder paste. Yeah, they can be incredibly accurate.
That's fancy.
You know? Yeah.
And I mean,
that was 26 grand worth of kit.
Yeah, well, yeah. If you got it laying around, might as well use it, right?
Well, yeah, that's right.
It's a tough stuff.
They're neat, and then you can just place your components by hand with your tweezers, and then shove it in the reflow oven, and Bob's your uncle.
Right.
So Bob is my uncle.
But you still don't get the plated through holes, which sucks. So, you know.
Yeah, I know. So, well, I think they claim they've got a machine which somehow does plated through in some way, shape, or form. Yeah.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah. So.
If only I had the dough.
Yeah, exactly. But,
Right.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I found that those things are really good. Like if you're doing analog stuff, just to throw stuff together, because if you need like a ground plane, even just a surrounding ground, like
of course,
a pour,
yeah.
it's nice for that kind of stuff. But once you start getting into any kind of microcontroller, anything where you need solder mask, screw it.
Yep. No, that's right. And speaking of solder mask, actually, and silkscreen, I mean, this board looks really nice from Circuit Labs. I'm really quite impressed. It's got the finish is not gold or hot air level surface. It's actually silver. So it's a silver finished pad. Yeah, so it looks really nice. And the silkscreen looks quite nice, but it's not as dark as my one from PCB Cart. And if you see my little project, my little front panel microcurrent project, then the white silkscreen from PCB Cart is really dark and like it's one of those photo imageable, silkscreen type. I don't know the various processes, but it's very dark. Whereas the one from Circuit Labs is very sort of lighter and more transparent. So I don't know how it's going to go as a front panel. So as you'll see in a video, which I just edited last night and I'll upload, 1 hour. Woohoo! For those fans of the big... It's a whole hour long.
I'm not one of them. I'm a skipper. I skip around.
Right, yeah. Anyway, and you may have heard it all before, because I think once I got through shooting the video, I went, I think I've said all this before in my previous design for manufacture video.
Deja vu.
Yeah, slight. And of course, I'm not going to go through and edit it or just not upload it, so I may as well just upload it. Right.
You just hope that people... forget.
Yes, because as you know, I want to make more of my little microcurrent project, right?
Yeah.
So, and, up until now, I've just been making them, they're hand assembled by my guy in Melbourne. He, takes each part from the DigiKey bag and he hand assembles the things. And it's okay when you're making 50 of them or something like that. But, I want to make a few more than that this time. And I figure, well, I might as well bite the bullet. So I panelise my board. And now I want to get away from China. I want to make it local. So I was hoping that Circuit Labs in New Zealand could make
Look
it
at this
for me.
hippie. He's going all local. He's a locavore. Have you heard that term yet?
No, a locavore.
That's people who are supposed to eat. They insist on eating local. They call themselves locavores. Oh, it's such a douchey term.
Right? Yeah, I got to admit it's a pretty bad term.
I didn't mean to call you a locavore.
I can certainly agree with the concept. We try and get all local food.
Yeah, no, I agree with it. It's just calling yourself that. It's
that's a bit of a.
Or if you refer to yourself that way.
That's right.
Yeah,
in the third
I like the idea though. I really do. I think supporting locally, and you and I were talking about that last night. People used to stamp. I mean, they still do. They stamp where it's made. Part of that's, I think, export compliance. But it used to be very prominently displayed on the outside of stuff, made in the USA or made in Australia.
Yeah, of course.
And they're. It's usually you got to pay a premium, but some people are willing to pay that, and I think it's admirable.
That's right. Well, in my case, right, this circuit board, I can give you the actual figures, right? The circuit board from PCB Cart is like 1/3 the cost of the New Zealand one, basically, for a quantity of 200, I think. So it's 1/3 the cost. So I'd be paying 3 times the price. Basically, but that doesn't include postage. Postage from China, they've upped their prices now. PCB Cart in China, so it's like
keep
$50,
man.
Yeah,
Happy New Year.
Postage. So,
Happy New Year. Inflation is rampant.
That's right. Oh man, so they used to be really cheap, and now they've really ramped up.
And there's popularity
prices.
too. I mean, really, there's
it is popularity
and scaling, and if you start to
buy
more,
where they were so popular that they couldn't keep up because they used to have like an 8-day. That would be their standard turnaround, 8 days, and they used to be able to meet that, but they've slowly been slipping and haven't been able to meet their 8 days, and they just got so popular. And I guess they had to up their prices to sort of, stem that supply and demand kind of thing. So, which is a good position to be in, I guess. It means you're successful.
Yes, it is.
But,
now here's the real question: how are you going to find Australian chips? Because I think you might be up a creek there, buddy.
Up the proverbial creek without a paddle.
Yeah, I don't think you'll be able to find resistors, right? You have to
we've got one.
You have Alan Yates wire wrapping or wire wound resistors for you, or something like that.
Yeah, Alan, get to it. Whip.
Yeah.
Quarter watt, 1% tolerance. And I want a bunch of 0.1% tolerances too, so I want you to hold your tongue at the right angle while you wind them,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I know. Well,
not
that's
to-
the thing, right? But I'm trying to do as much as I want to do as much as I can. Get the PCB assembled here. Try and get like a locally made or a locally sourced box, perhaps, like I do with the microcurrent. Get it assembled here, test it here. You know, at least do as much as I can.
get government funding for the whole project.
Right? Yeah.
Stretch the schedule by 2 years. Hires thousands of contractors.
And then go bust. Woohoo!
Exactly. You just run away. You just
jump out with my golden parachute.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the way you do it, Dave. I mean, you've got to figure this out.
I've got it all wrong. Yeah, I'm doing it wrong.
That's fun though. And I mean, maybe that's even a legitimate, if that could be a legitimate use of printed chip. I know that that's a dead horse I'm dragging back out of the closet, but maybe even resistors. You'd see serpentine resistors sometimes. I've seen really high accuracy serpentine resistors. So there is a significant case. I mean, it would be very costly to make those, but it is more possible to make them locally, at least, because it's probably expensive to make them everywhere, right? So,
let's not get involved in that.
no,
again.
we don't have to. But I'm just saying, it's another use. So,
Speaking of government
another
funding,
reason.
actually, I've got a little non sequitur story here, right? This guy I know, he's a Kenyaner, and he's setting up this website. And, this really cool website where you can put all information and it maps out all the canyons and all sorts of various things. It's really cool. But he's just got funding from the Chilean government, as in Chile.
Chilean.
Chilean. The
Yes.
Chilean guy. Sorry, or to all the Chilean people out there if I actually pronounced it wrong. But he's actually got this government funding from the Chilean government. And he's moving over there for 6 months to work on his project. Awesome.
Huh.
The government are trying to entice people to come to their actual startup companies to come to the country, and they'll help them out. So move to our country for 6 months, and we'll pay all your expenses. And I don't know what other catches are involved in.
That's an interesting point, though, because I mean, it really a lot of startups are. Can get localized funding like that. Not necessarily moving, but even if you're a startup in Sydney, I'm sure there's funding of some sort, just local boosters.
Sydney, I don't know, maybe in Melbourne,
maybe not
perhaps.
Sydney.
Yeah, Sydney's very backwards,
Yeah, well, like when I was talking to that guy from the Cleveland Maker Gear, Maker Gear's that MakerBot competitor, and I was talking to him, and I'm like, you should really be looking for this stuff because Cleveland's got tons of foundations, and they want so many startups, and
really,
it's just like blah,
Right, he just didn't want to go to Cleveland. Is that the?
No, he's already here. That's the thing. Like he's already here.
Right.
So why not get the funding since you're here? So if you're a startup out there, or if you're thinking about a startup, that's a significant funding source that I know Cleveland has it because I have another friend who's he's running a software startup and he gets a ton of this funding and. It's usually not many strings attached.
Okay. I was going to ask, what are the strings? Like, do they get a percentage of the company if you ever floated, or do they just do it for the, they just want to make use of public money?
I think it's not even public. Sometimes it's private, like foundation money. Like people.
Oh, right.
Like the Cleveland Foundation.
If it's private foundation money, usually there'll be more strings attached, I think.
No, that's the thing though too. Like it's like these are like charities and like stuff like that. Like these are local. Like Cleveland Foundation is this huge foundation that tries to promote business and art and everything else. Right, great foundation.
Okay. Yep.
And so, but really, as far as I know, some of these, the only thing that's tied to it is, well, let us show off how awesome you are. Right? Like it's like people are applying for this, so they're only going to pick the best ones. But know that in the end, they just want to bring business here. And I know Detroit has a lot of programs like that. I was listening to a story about that.
Fantastic.
On the radio about that. So if you're thinking about a startup, look for that kind of localized funding because it's possible. And even if not that, maybe even national stuff because there's STEM programs and stuff like that. There is funding out there. It's not easy to get, but it's out there.
Yep, it's possible. Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's great though. Your friend's doing that. And Chile is supposed to be the hot spot. I mean, South America in general. It's blown up.
Right, in a good way, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, in a good way.
Okay. Yeah. Literally blowing up and imploding.
No, that'd be bad.
Got it.
No, they're a growth area, just like Asia. I mean, I think they're kind of like Brazil. I know is slated to be the next China. I don't know if they already are surpassing China. I mean, at least in growth percentages.
A big call.
Yeah. I think in growth percentages, though. I mean, and a lot of software is going down there. but just these really dense areas. Like Rio's huge, right? And
Yep.
Can't say I know much about it.
Right, I think we're talking
Brazil
about our ass again.
is
are we?
hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there you go. If you can get funding, do it.
Yeah. Go for it. Go for it.
Speaking of funding, and we talked about PCB mills before, somebody pointed out, who is it? You've reorganised my... No, you haven't reorganised my list. Case
Your list.
B on Twitter sent me a tweet, and he pointed out another, Kickstarter project.
Yeah.
I know, they're getting a bit boring, but it's one of those, circuit board mills. It mills out, and looks like it's made of wood, and it's got some accurate stepper motors, and it's got some capacitive sensing system, so it gives you absolute relative positioning and stuff like that. So, I think they haven't actually got much funding yet. I think two grand out of 30 or something. So
yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, that's a tough one. 30 grand is their thing. But why hasn't somebody done a MakerBot in quote marks and sort of taken these circuit board mills commercial? I know it's a much more niche market. But it seems like every man and his dog's done a do-it-yourself PCB mill, right? But that's where it stopped. They make one, they make a prototype,
like an actual
kit that actually works, or mostly works, or
Yeah, I mean, because you're right, the stepper motors, like in a MakerBot, have to be they're getting good enough resolution to probably do a decent enough mill, right? So
yeah, of course,
it's XYZ. That's all it is.
Yeah, I'm
and
sure.
Then a drill.
And these things work. It's not a big deal. They do work. It's just a matter of putting the effort in to design a kit or a fully built unit that actually works for a reasonable price.
I think you pegged it with the market, because if you have a MakerBot or 3D printer, that has really broad appeal, like even broader appeal.
But it didn't
than...
when it started up, though. But I guess you could see that it had bigger potential, but it was, practically unheard. It was just a novel little toy for nerds, just like a PCB mill would be. So
I don't know, though. I think if you look at the actual final
subset,
I think if you look at that final subset of like, okay, so how many people in the world would want to do 3D printing? Oh, yeah,
of course, yeah.
Versus how many would want to eventually etch their own board, and then
I wonder
there's
if they thought about that when they actually did it. Did Bree and the other two guys, I think, who started MakerBot, did they sit around and go, right, there's X amount of people in the world, and they're all going to buy their X percentage are going to buy a MakerBot, or they just went, well, we want to do it because it's fun. If it works, it works. If it fails, it fails.
Well, there's a couple stories out there, but I mean, they did a couple interviews, but I would think that they looked at. I know they based it off the rep wrap. So if you could, they could. Everyone saw,
did they? Okay.
Right. Yeah, I mean, everyone saw how exciting the rep wrap was, and then it was taking that to the next level, right? And
right.
Yada yada yada. So, maybe the first step for this would be as some kind of open source one just to start with, right? I mean, granted, MakerBot is open source, but really you need like a fully open, non-commercial project first, and then it goes towards the other. Yeah.
And one of my predictions came true, that they would drop the kit, and now they have. This new MakerBot replicator is you can't buy it as a kit anymore. It's a fully built unit. That was plainly obvious. So they've actually dropped the kit.
Yeah. And speaking of open source version of that, actually, that's actually one of the things in that open source ecology 50. I've talked about open source ecology.
Is a 3D printer? Yeah.
No, not a 3D. Well, yes, I think that is in there too. But
I think
actually, a board mill is in there as well.
Oh, is it? Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so actually, I wanted to say thank you to everyone and shout out to everyone who actually did write in about that. We probably got about 7 or 8 people, and I was shocked. Like reading the experience people were on there, and it was all like super relevant, and people working on induction furnaces, and I'm just like, whoa. So
awesome.
our listeners are very cool.
They are.
I'm like reading, and I'm like, oh, I haven't done anything. Oh.
Wait, no, some people make you feel ashamed of yourself, don't they? Yeah. They just do so much work,
I know.
They put so many hours into it. And
I should stop sleeping. Oh.
Yeah. Well, you're married now,
Yeah, it's true.
It's all over.
So I sleep all the time now, 12 hours a day.
Right.
Chris, wash the dishes. But on that same thing, actually, I talked to the guy running the open source ecology project, and he asked for a little bit more help from us, and I thought we might be able to help. They're actually looking for a project manager now for the whole universal power supply. Basically, we supplied them with some domain experts, which is awesome. But I know that some of our listeners are project managers, and I think some of them, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, if I was a project manager for 10 years, right, and I had this great experience, but I wanted to dig into something that was like really
meaningful.
Yeah. It gets back to like the Dan Pink book and talking about like drive and the purpose, right? This is it, man. Like so anyways, I'm going to set up another Google form after the show tonight, and I'll put it in the show notes. Cool. But, yeah, if you're a project manager, or even if you want to get project manager experience so that you can show your boss someday and be like, look, I just managed this project, and that's a good way to get stuff on your resume.
You could, yeah, for sure.
You know, I talk to people about that, like people interviewing for software jobs. I'm like, well, they always say, well, I don't have any experience. Well, there's a lot of open source projects out there.
There's countless ones. Why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you get off your ass and show some initiative? Yeah. Yep. I'm going to hire the next guy who walks in the door that says he's done that. So
yeah,
too
exactly.
bad, you know.
Yep. And I think aside from hobby projects that people can do at home for the resumes, I think there's a surge in open source hardware projects that as the projects get bigger, there's more people that need to be involved and share and share the work rather. But
in fact, you can do most of them. I mean, some projects, languish so far behind because there's nobody to work on it, and you can come along and contribute most of the effort to it if you've got the time and you've got the talent,
or even just the time.
Right,
you'll figure it out, man.
Gain the talent later. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I think there was a question on here at some point. I can't find it, but there's always that question of hardware projects. I mean, if there is the collaboration, or if I saw on I forget what Twitter account it was, but basically it was a quote from iWoz, and it was basically Steve Wozniak saying, basically you got to work alone. Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know if that's true with hardware. I mean,
I got to agree. I think he's right to a certain extent, and
I think someone has to have a vision, right? I think
somebody has to run it and make all the decisions and be the dictator on the project. Otherwise, if it's designed by committee, it's not going to work. So,
right. And you could farm it out. So say you were like a senior architect or whatever, you could always hand someone and be like, I need a circuit that does this, this, and this. Go, come back when you're done. And don't come back until you're done, rather.
Right. I totally agree. Either you do it yourself or you've got to be the dictator who... end of story, I've said so, that's it, boom, and the project succeeds or fails based on your vision. That's it. Yeah. And
we've talked about actually how chips have been going that way too. Like, I think 79 episodes, and I'm starting to forget them all day. They're all starting to blur together.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah,
I just did a whole 1 hour video. I forgot I'd done it before.
Yep. It's not just age. Sometimes it's just life, man. But yeah, there was I think it was like an Apple chip or something like that, where it was one guy driving the train, like he was
as in recently?
Yeah, I think that was recently.
Like the Apple A4 processor or something? Surely not. I mean, those things are so huge that
it was,
really...
but it was like he was pulling in modules basically. So he was basically the architect, and then you hand it off to a verification engineer.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Right. Got it. Well, it's kind of like how we had Howard Johnson on the other week, and he was talking about the standards, how to choose the new Ethernet standard. And I asked him, did it come down to one or two guys with white and grey beards, and they stroke their beard and go, right, this is the way we're going to do 10 gigabit Ethernet? And he said, that's basically how it works. We get the smartest guys in the room, and they make the decision, and that's it. End of story. And
everyone else is there for the resume because they're head nodders, right?
Exactly. playing wank word bingo.
There you go. Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's
and so that's how it works. And you're always going to be able to find examples where you can prove otherwise, that a community developed project is, it works or can be really good or better. But I think they're the niche minority.
Yeah,
I
hardware.
think they're the exception rather than the rule. And talking in terms of hardware.
Yeah. I've seen it where people split apart like schematics by pages, and then you still have an architect, but then you And in those cases, I think
in those cases you could get it to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my open source multimeter concept I had. You know, I could have dictated that I want this, and this feature, and then I could have, you know, had other people actually do the schematic for that part and that part. But you know, I don't know.
but you're not a project manager.
Yeah, and you know they might end up using some $50 chip that's going to kill the entire budget. You know, so there's lots of really intricate trade-offs.
When you constrain it that much, it's like, well, might as well just go do it.
Yeah, exactly. Might as well do it all myself, and yeah,
because that's the key. I mean, I think the key with projects like that is you have to really constrain at the boundaries, like the signals. So if you have block A talking to block B, the important thing is making sure that the communication between block A and block B, or power between them, whatever it is, you need to make sure that's right. And then you can let designers go off and do block A and do block B.
That's classic systems engineering, yeah.
Exactly. And
I
love
and you can
stuff.
I've worked on huge projects like that where that eventually works, but it takes 2 or 3 years, and you know, eventually it sort of limps its way out of the out of a prototype into production. You know, it's a very lethargic, iterative process with lots of meetings and lots of shouting and lots. And lots of money wasted and time wasted. Oh boy, the stories I could tell.
Well, if you want to, you're allowed to.
Oh, right. They're just too long.
Okay.
Told a couple of them before. But, you know, I've worked on projects, $15 million that have just been scrapped. You know? Yeah.
Well,
no
speaking
big deal
of meetings and wank word bingo, I have a wank word for you. It's one of our favorites around here. The Internet of Things.
Oh. No, please, no.
Oh yeah, there it is. That's it. But it's for good reason, actually. So TI released the chip this week. I think it was this week. It's kind of cool though. It's a module, a completely self-contained module that lets you just put Wi-Fi into anything.
Well, that's what I'm doing with my power supply project at the moment. I'm going that route. I'm using one of these little WizNet modules, which allows you to put Ethernet into anything.
Yeah.
You know,
I love
instant.
it. I think it's a great idea.
Instant web access to Ethernet, and it costs $19 or something for this module, and it's got the whole Mac in there and the whole thing, and it just converts serial SPI into web-enabled.
Huh.
You know,
I didn't know you were putting that on there.
Yeah, I'm going to put that up. Well, I originally added support for it, but then somebody suggested the WizNet. I've got one of those WizNet modules.
Dave's kit is now $4,000.
That's right.
Don't worry, folks. There's only a 60% margin.
And I had somebody complain that it was that I was letting it end up being actually community designed project, and it's not. I always had the thought to put that serial, any sort of serial capability in, or be it any sort of comms capability, be it RS-232, USB, Ethernet, whatever. So
yeah, is it pretty limited going serial to Ethernet or serial to USB? I've always heard that it's pretty limited in terms of bandwidth when you get down to that.
It is pretty limited, but for something like a power supply, geez, it's not like you're transferring megabytes per second of data. Geez, you just want to set the voltage and maybe read it back. It's got 2 commands: set voltage, read voltage. That's pretty much it.
And it's all done locally, all the control then.
Yep. So it's fairly basic. But when you can just put in a little dual 0.1-inch header footprint on your design that you can plug in one of these, a sub $20 WizNet modules to give your product Ethernet capability, it's a no-brainer.
Oh, is that a module though?
It's a module. Yeah, you plug it in.
Dave, this is a chip that I'm talking about.
Oh, so right. No, well, I'm talking modules. Basically,
I know. Okay.
Which does everything. Which means it's great, because then you could just put the footprint on your board for zero cost during development.
Yeah, that's true.
And then if people want to pay extra, they can plug the module in.
That's
whereas
true.
if it's chip level,
or you could sell it to them. You could sell it to them at a 200% margin, right?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, the upgraded version. Right? Oh.
No.
I always love seeing that when you're looking at a product catalog and you're like, what is that jump right there? And then they're like, oh, well, this version has 2 megs of memory, and this next version up for $4,000 more is 4 megs of memory. Really?
And it's already on there, but they just software unlock it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, bastards.
Oh, that's fun. I don't know. I think this chip's pretty cool though. All the software's integrated and everything.
Yeah.
It's all internal. It's 6K internal. It's pretty cool.
Right. Okay.
So
and what does it do exactly?
it puts your stuff on Wi-Fi now instead of Ethernet.
Right. Okay, but what's the interface? Like, does it convert, like, does it hook up to your processor via SPI bus or parallel bus or what? I can hear you busily typing away there.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're making me read now, Dave.
Yeah, well, come on. You're plugging this thing.
I know.
It's almost a chip of the week, and you're...
That's not a chip. I didn't say chip of the week. I didn't say it. You said it. I didn't say it. I didn't say it.
It's a chip which we're discussing. That automatically makes it chip of the week, doesn't it?
Nah, I guess. Yeah. It's a chip, and it's this week. So
insert music. So yeah, it's got that's what I want to know. I want to know the technical details, because if it's complicated to interface to, and then it's hopeless, right?
Well,
but if it's got Arduino libraries or something and it's very trivial, it uses SPI bus, then easy.
Yeah, and the key with that kind of stuff always is if you have to pull all that stuff internal to the processor, and you have to have a stack, and then you have to have
you got to have some
RTOS
software stacks. Yeah, exactly. No, that's too hard. And that's what these WIZnet Ethernet modules do. It doesn't. You just send SPI commands, and that's it. It handles the stack and everything else, and the MAC addresses, and the whole kit and caboodle, and the web server, and the whole.
Oh, it's got a server too? That's pretty cool.
I don't know if it's a server, but you can actually communicate with it via a web page,
okay.
via a web browser. So
you could at least have a console within the web page and then send commands to it or something.
Guess what I got the other day, right? They were so cheap.
A puppy.
No, sorry.
Oh, okay. All right.
For $55 or $60 delivered or something. It was so cheap. It's one of these Wi-Fi enabled web cameras, right? And it's got a pan tilt base as well. So it's got motors in it, and it can rotate around 360 degrees. It's an infrared camera as well, so it can see at night. And it's all web enabled. It's Wi-Fi enabled. It's Ethernet enabled. And you can hook it up, and it's got complete web-based access, so anyone can go to the web page and then control your camera. So I'm going to stick it in the corner of lab so people can come and control the camera in my lab and look and pan around.
Don't judge me, listeners. Please don't judge me. But my first thought was, creepers are going to have a field day with that one. People are just going to buy that and plug it in, and yeah.
I think I'll have it automatically switched off. Only when I want to switch it on will it come on.
Just throw a T-shirt over it or something, right?
Right.
Yeah, that was my first thought.
And it's got alarm outputs as well, like a little terminal block for alarm outputs. It does motion sensing in software built in.
$60?
Yeah, delivered.
Man, that's crazy.
And it's got a pan tilt motor and the whole, the web in it. You just type in the IP address for it. Haven't got it fully configured, but I've got it talking locally. So you type in the IP address, like 196.1.168 or something, and then it pops up. Automatically just pops up with the video feed in there. It automatically pops up with the pan tilt controls and the zoom controls and everything. And you can set it to automatically record during certain hours and days of the week, and you can automatically set it to record when it detects motion, so like a security type system. It's incredible.
That kind of reminds me of a rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing, right? I mean, that is enabled by cheap microcontrollers and cheap image
web
CMOS, cheap
web
PHYs, cheap everything,
Wi-Fi
right?
chips and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, exactly.
So, how are companies making money on real webcams? Am I just buying the exact same thing for $200 from Logitech? I mean,
but they've got much better quality sensors in them. I mean, this one's pretty crusty quality.
Okay, but I mean,
it goes up to
eventually
640 by 480. But
eventually, this stuff all comes down to a commercial level. Like I was talking to my wife about portable phones. Do you remember portable phones from 15 years ago?
Yep.
How expensive they were and everything. And she was asking because we had bought her mom one, and I started explaining to her. I was like, well, it was $60 for a set of 5 of them for around the house, and they're all. And I'm like, I was explaining the margins and stuff, and I'm like, in reality, for $60, those 5 phones and all the receivers and bases, and plastic and everything, it was probably $10, honestly.
Yeah, I know.
And it's
crazy.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, and that's
I just bought Nicole, my better half, one of these smartphones. It's one of these. It's the new HTC. I can't remember the name, but it's $150, right? And it's
even without not the contract or anything. I mean, it's not
no. This is outright, right?
Okay.
It's $150 outright. It's only a month old. It's just come out, and it's like their super low-end, low-cost smartphone, but it does everything every other smartphone does, except the quality of the camera in there is crap, right? It doesn't have autofocus in it, can't scan barcodes up close, it can't do anything. But apart from that, it does everything an $800 smartphone does. Like,
so where do we go from here, though? That's what I was getting at, is like, if all these low-end manufacturers can do so much stuff, I mean, we talked about $100 tablets and low-end smartphones, like, what else do we need, really? I mean, like, that sounds really pedantic, right? I mean, like, but like, what else do we? Where do companies go from here, right? I mean, like,
they just make more shit and they make it.
I guess so, but like, do they need
more feature pack?
15 megapixel cameras on a phone? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it seems like the value
of
companies is rapidly declining, right? And so,
but you can go into that niche market. Like, people will buy
so, yeah.
I'm surprised at the amount of people who will fork out for an $800, $1,000 phone. I won't do it. There's tons of people out there who might. And you can have a niche product where, this has an absolute kick-ass camera and lens in it. It's handcrafted by nude virgins, and it's, the best in the business, right? Yeah. And people will pay a big actual premium for that.
They will. I think this is part of what's actually pushing the open source hardware thing, though, too, because once it gets past the cheapo manufacturers, the one hung lows, as you like to call them.
Yep.
I think eventually it becomes cheap enough and even easy enough that hobbyists are not always that it has to be easy, but just that it's why not, right? I mean, why not design a webcam into an Arduino or whatever else people are doing these days, right? I mean, so. Maybe that's just the next step. Maybe that's why it's surging like it is, because there's just this buildup of technology, and it's
there is.
Good enough, right? I mean,
and it's good enough, and it's so cheap. Yeah, it's
so cheap.
And because you're not going to pay. Like, I've heard before that the magic figure is like $300. Once a product gets below the $300 threshold, it becomes an impulse buy. I think we've even talked about that on here before, as usual. We've done so many shows. We've talked about everything, haven't we? And we just rehash shit. That's all we do on the Amp Hour.
Yeah, we're just on repeat now.
Yep.
Me and Dave, actually, we're not even here.
We're not even here. We've just hit.
We've
just hit
scramble.
Play. And so once they get cheap enough, it enables certain things to happen and certain markets to grow and develop and things like that. So I don't know. But this $150 smartphone, you've got to be kidding me.
Right.
Like, unbelievable.
Yeah, and there's other driving points like this, too. I mean, there's another article on our list about low power, right? I mean, like, things are relatively low power right now, but they can obviously get better. There's always efficiencies you can get. Yeah. But they're talking about, like, millivolt switching of electronics. Like noise switching, basically. That's what I think of, but apparently that's what the drive is towards, like, eventually... Why with 5 volt? Why with 3 volt?
Yeah, I know.
0.9? That's so much. Why not go down to...
Your regular processor works at 0.8 now, or 0.75 or something.
Well, yeah, but like there is there's zero, right? There's always zero.
And there's always zero, right.
There may be plenty of room at the bottom, as Feynman used to say, but is there really? Is it that much? I don't know, man.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think there are...
I mean, that's what
it gets exponentially more difficult.
So are companies just doing this because, are they just doing it because, they're running out of things to do, or is there actually value to it? That's kind of my question for it.
Both. They're forced to, because they have to spend money researching new markets. If they don't, somebody else will, and they'll beat them to it if it works. If it doesn't work, they're smart. With hindsight, right? We didn't waste money on that process.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that was a dead end. Blind Freddy could see that.
Right.
So
they're doing the same thing with chips too. I mean, they're talking about 3D processes and all that other crazy shit.
You've got to take a gamble sometimes, and
what? No, companies don't do that. They don't fund research and development. They just fund development, right?
Right. Yeah. Bastards. But somebody else will. That's always the fear, is that somebody else will, and they'll grab that market, and bam, you're gone.
Yeah, that's true.
Look at Kodak just went out of business, right?
I know.
They just went bankrupt.
Into bankruptcy.
Filed for but Yeah,
and their restructuring is a different company, right? I mean, if you look at them 30 years ago versus now, like they were making technology back then, and now they're a chemical company, basically.
Well, yeah, and they had like 95% of the camera market, like for 50 years, right? And they clearly didn't do the right things when digital technology came along, and bam, now they're effectively out of business. They're insignificant. So
yeah, and now they're like a tube manufacturer, right? They're like, it's
right.
like, you know, and I think that's a pretty good analog, actually, is that, you know, people still use tube amps, right? I'm actually working on a tube amp right now, and
Luddite.
I know, but like, there's a market for that, but it's just it's just a sliver, just a tiny little market, you know, like, it's not that big.
But there's a niche for everything, that's
right?
the thing,
Exactly,
you know?
and that's the reality these days, right? I mean, it benefits us in many ways, as in there's open source hardware and there's Etsy.com and all that other crazy stuff that's out there.
Somebody tweeted the other day that no matter how, sorry I forget who, but no matter how shit your product is, there's a niche for it.
Yeah, even the shonky products,
so
right? I mean, like, someone's buying it, obviously. Someone wants to feel good.
You might get 10 people to buy it, but it's, you know, it's...
And times $3,000, I mean, that's $30,000.
Yeah, that's right. Unbelievable.
Yeah. They're running out of things.
There is a someone called Aurora from the forum. He pointed out a 500-page PDF book on analog circuit design, and it looks pretty darn impressive. I've got to say.
Is this the okay? Because actually, Hans Kamensend, the 555 guy, he actually did one. But I think I've seen this one before, too. Yeah, this is great. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one before. It's called Analog Secrets, as in SEEKRETS.
Yeah.
Yeah, groan. Okay, DC to Daylight is the tagline, you know.
Yeah.
So Analog Secrets, a masterclass in analog design by Leslie Green. And apparently he comes from, where did he used to work? He used to work at... he used to work designing 7.5-digit meters at Dartron Instruments. So, you know, really sort of bleeding edge, you know, low signal level stuff. So I'm sure he knows his stuff in the analog domain.
I think that's when I found it, when I was working at Keithley.
Right,
I was looking for stuff like this. And
yeah, I'm sure you would have come across it. So, yeah, he used to work on stuff like that. And this is a real shame because he... how much effort goes, how many years of your life, you know, years, not just 1 year, I'm sure it was multiple years of his life went into writing this book. He found a UK publisher. This is on his website, and apparently they've just discontinued it because, due to lack of sales, the publisher discontinued it because UK students now don't have grants and they have too high fees for their courses that they can't afford to buy the book anymore. So... Apparently they used to get grants or something, and now they don't, and now nobody can afford to buy this book because it's 500 pages, so it's, you know, it's a monster of a book.
And publishing
and
in general,
these textbooks are expensive. You
know,
they're
it's
always
nothing
to pay
plus,
over $100
right?
for a textbook. So
yeah, I was talking to someone about how they, or someone I mentioned last week, actually. It was when we were talking about the art of computer programming, right? And someone asked, "I can't believe you don't have that." I think it's Adam who said that.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, I don't program that much, and I can't afford those books.
Yeah, exactly.
If I could have found one on campus somewhere, you know, like, or at a book sale.
I was going through eBay I was surfing eBay the other day, and for some reason I ended up on these medical textbooks. It's like, you know, you're surfing Wikipedia, and you end up, you know, in a few clicks, you end up...
The dark corner of Wikipedia.
Exactly. And these textbooks, even used, were like $300-400 because they're so specialised in this medical field. You know, if you're doing if becoming a doctor and you've got to buy your textbook for... These textbooks are $300-500 because they're so niche. They only print like 1,000 of them worldwide or something, and they're so big and complicated that they...
And it's the must-have or whatever, right?
It's a must-have, so they can charge anything they like, and that's how much, you know, they do charge.
Yeah.
Like a wounded bull in a China shop.
What? Oh, charge. Got it.
Charge. Yeah. Charge.
Get it? China shop. Happy New Year.
Yeah. Can you say it again?
Nah, I totally forgot. I was trying to think, and I'm like, nope, it's gone.
Right. You trained yourself. I heard you at the start practicing.
I probably said it about 100 times trying to say it. So.
Right. Okay.
Yep. I'm not good with languages. Speaking of books, actually, one of my favorite books, actually, in analog, is by Sergio Franco. He's a UCSF professor, and there's this great book on op amps he wrote called. Crap, it's not with me. But anyways, he just finished a new book, and he actually and someone online told me about it because I had been interested in his other book, and basically he printed it in a spiral bound version for his students to keep it cheap, and it's still $75 on Amazon. Yeah, that's like ugh. So this one's actually
a cheap version. That's right.
Yeah, and so this is actually about discrete design. So if you're interested in you know how like they always talk about like
transistors and
analog circuit designers, like chip designers. If you want to make a crap ton of money, this is how you do it. And buy this book and
learn how to do current mirrors and transistor current mirrors and constant current sources, and roll in that 10 different ways with a handful of transistors, and then figuring out all the physics behind it.
Yes,
and then how to put it on a bit of silicon,
tiny bit of sand.
Yeah. With a whole lot of magic dust thrown in.
Yep, some wide-layer current mirrors, right?
Right, yes.
Yeah. Speaking of, actually, I was poking on the bookshelf.
Any idiot can count to one.
Yeah, that's right. Huh? Not me. I was poking on the bookshelf at work, and I found a gem. It was awesome. I found.
Why didn't you tweet a photo of it?
My camera's broken on my phone, actually. I need to get a low-cost phone.
You need to get one of these $150 smartphones.
Yeah, I do.
With a shit camera, but at least it works.
Yeah. I found a 1987 linear technology application handbook. And I'm like, 87, that sounds about right. And I open it up, and it's App Note 1 through App Note 21. It was awesome. It was like finding a diamond. It was awesome.
Hallelujah.
So, like, out of that 21, I think 19 of those are Jim Williams app notes,
right?
And one is Bob Weidlar, and one is some other guy. I didn't recognize his name,
right?
So
disappeared into obscurity.
Oh, I'm sure he's still there. Come on, right. These guys are long term, you know.
Right? Yeah.
These
guys are hardcore. That's right.
And actually, speaking of Jim Williams, we have had a note on here for a while. This guy, Kent Lundberg, he's a MIT professor. And he's kind of going through, I think it's since Jim Williams died, but he actually started a blog called readingjimwilliams.blogspot.com. And he's going through and reading every app note and writing about them. He just wrote one today, actually, on app note 85. And it's this really great in-depth look at each app note, and they'll link to it, and it's great. If
that's
people ever
unusual that you could actually discuss an app note, because an app note is designed to discuss the thing it's talking about in a clear way. So this is commentary on the app note.
Yeah.
Or is it a different way to present the information, or is it, what is the style of the...
It's like a true
commentary
blog style. Actually, it's Dr. Analog on Twitter, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's great, though. I mean, it's great. It's kind of fun to follow along.
You could sell that Twitter name.
You could. I guess so.
Yeah. There's got to be a whole $20 in that.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So, yeah, it's fun. It's fun to follow along. So if people out there are analog folk, check it out. Do we have any... We completely missed shout-outs or anything like that today. Do we have any of those? I don't think so. No, we talked about some of it, but no, not really. We've had some suggestions from we should clear out our list. This can be our yard sale of a episode.
Right, okay, last 7 minutes we've got left. Oh, yeah. By the way, we have a new server. We're now on Libsyn.
Oh yeah, so hopefully it's been better.
Yeah, you should not have any download issues now because the MP3 file is hosted on this cloud server.
Yeah, so it's like the multiple location, right? It's distributed.
It's a CDN. That's the word.
Yeah,
it's a content delivery network. So so the file is now automatically hosted on multiple servers around the world, and you automatically download from the one nearest to you, and you don't even realize it. So, yeah. Rather than before, the file was on one server, and then when 3,000 people try and download it at once, it just dies and falls over.
Crappy server.
Yeah.
So, and that is all thank you to our donors, which we love and appreciate. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much. People have been donating, and the money goes towards that. So,
and other things that we're working on. So,
and fortunately or unfortunately, we get a free app with that. Would you like a free app with that, sir?
Yeah.
And we automatically. I haven't tried it, but apparently we can set up our own app for the show.
Well, we should be more clear about it. People would have to pay $1.99.
Oh, they would have to pay. It's $1.99, and we would get like 50% cut of that. So it's a way to donate to the show. Almost.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to try it out just to
I mean,
to see what it's like. And if it's shit, well, we'll tell you it's shit. But if it's good, we'll actually promote it. So.
Yeah, it's a cool thing to say, like, oh, we have an app, but then it's like, and 50 people use it, and they're all unhappy with it because we don't keep it up.
You had 50 people try it once,
Right, yeah, exactly.
Because it was crap, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, anyways, Libsyn's good. So if there's any other problems with, I don't know, we might look at other server stuff just for the WordPress, but... Yeah,
but the WordPress doesn't get much traffic, so our shared server should be able to handle that for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and thanks to Alan for helping us. Alan Garfield.
Thank you very much, Alan.
IT guru.
He's our penguin.
That's right.
He's our penguin man. And so it's it'll allow us to do a lot of stuff in the future. Hopefully, with the show, it can transcode into different formats. And heaven forbid, it can insert advertising. That's if we found someone silly enough to want us to actually give us money to. Yeah.
Blab.
So we can be bought.
We can.
But it allows us to do all sorts of stuff like that. So in theory, you could download, we could upload a super high, not res, thinking video, high audio quality version. Then it can automatically transcode in different formats based on what sort of bandwidth connection you've got and things like that. It's fairly smart.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. All right, so I have a fun thing on this list for the last couple of minutes.
All right,
it's just going to be a quick mention actually because it's a visual thing, so people have to click over. But I found it actually from Matt Inks on Twitter. It's like these science stock photos. Have you ever seen these before?
No.
There's always these ridiculous. I mean, stock photos in general. Pretty ridiculous, right?
Right, okay.
Whenever I see one, I love calling it out, like just being like, like company literature, they always love doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But these are science-y stock photos, and it's just like picture after picture of people holding test tubes,
right.
some
and it's
with
usually,
people not wearing clothes for some reason. Like,
right.
Oh, it's
there's
ridiculous.
Always different types of people. There's a hot
very
chick.
Diverse.
There's a very smart looking chick with glasses, and there's a black person, and there's an Asian person, and there's a a guy with a grey beard, and there'll be there'll be all the stereotypes, all the ridiculous.
Yes.
Right.
And my favorite is the second to last, which is a very attractive young lady wearing protective goggles for some reason with a multimeter measuring a MacBook Pro.
Right.
It's just like, no, come on,
yeah,
guys.
I can see that. Oh, that's bad. Come on.
Yeah, so...
oh, no. Are these cards, they almost look like joke photos.
I know, right?
Yeah,
it's just they're so clueless that...
Yeah.
They're so tan and attractive, and there's the one above it, they're looking at a chicken.
Funny faces. And...
Yeah, exactly. So definitely worth the look. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Oh boy.
Yeah, shonky photos of the week, right?
Yeah, right. Some of them are fun, I've got to admit.
I mean they're good.
But there's a naked chick holding a test tube. Like a beaker filled with some blue liquid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, works for me. I don't know about you, but
don't tell the wife.
Right. Yeah. And there's a chick with a lab coat unbuttoned, and okay. Let's not say anymore. Yeah. That's pretty bad.
So last suggestion of the day, actually bring it back to PCBs, which we were talking about at the beginning of the episode. Actually, Brad Leister wrote in about this. There is I'm not sure about the site name. It's called meetandnetworking.com.
Okay, this sounds like
I don't know where that comes from,
site.
but yeah. But basically, it's a tutorial on KiCad and how to actually create your own laser cut stencils, which is pretty cool. I mean,
Awesome.
I think KiCad actually naturally outputs the stencils as a a part of its output files, but then taking that and then sending it over to a laser cutter.
Yep.
Not bad, right? I mean, like you could do cardboard.
Well, any package does that. It outputs a paste layer. It's just a solder paste layer.
Yeah, because that's part of the package, package layout, right?
Yep.
And so you could take this and then actually send it to a laser cutter, and I think you do like a SVG, which is like isn't that like a vector format or something like that?
Yes, it's a vector, based format, which is what Gerber is. Gerber is a vector-based format. So everything has to be lines. It's not like Gerber can, you render. I mentioned this in my video I shot last night, actually.
In your deja vu video?
In my deja vu video, I mentioned somewhere in the hour in there that, Gerbers generate things as lines. It's not like you can render fonts inside a Gerber file.
Right,
it
render lines that look like fonts.
Transfer it to vectors,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yep. And, and any PCB package must be able to output a paste file exactly like that, but outputting in a SVG, I guess, is in a suitable file that then can go into a laser printer. That's the key. So
yeah, and there's always that same thing of like you have to be at a certain point where you really want to use a solder stencil like that. Like there's probably. I think it's nice because some of the paid services now they'll just send you the stencil.
They'll send you them for free because they with your board because they
they're using them anyways.
Cut them out of Mylar these days. They're so cheap. They churn them out in 10 seconds and they're practically giving them away.
Right. So that's a nice. I mean, it's a nice thing to have for sure. I mean, it's a lot easier than squirting out little bits of solder paste unless you're.
Yep.
Unless you have one of those fancy machines that does it for you, all integrated.
Yeah.
But
I'm happy to sit there and solder my prototype board. It's almost like like a rite of passage for your prototype. You've got to hand solder it.
For a prototype,
Yeah. Speaking of which, how I got these boards and they turned up super quick, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a complaint. They turned up too darn quick. Because I was going to order some parts today. I thought I had like a couple of days spare. So I was going to order some parts today so that they turn up tomorrow so I'd have them when the boards arrive. But the boards turned up this morning, damn it, and I'm parts short. So, don't you hate
just
it?
pop
so
on down to your local electronics shop. Don't you guys have
I'm going to have
those
to make a run to Farnell's today. So,
there you go.
So.
See, you have that. I mean, I don't have that here, man. I think
really?
The best I could. I mean, I've got a surplus supply store in Cleveland.
Oh,
so
okay. Wait, you don't have like a... Oh, I get, well, it's not like you can have a DigiKey or Mouser or something, right? They're a centralised thing.
Yeah, they're all in Thief River Falls.
I'm in Sydney, so I do have a Farnell's, I have an RS Components, and then we've got JCar and Altronics.
So you just go to the distribution centre, basically, and you're
so I go to the distribution centre, and, you order it before, and then it takes them half an hour to pack it for you, and then you arrive at the tray counter, and you pick it up from the tray counter, instead of getting it posted. So,
so it's like if I lived in Thief River Falls and...
I don't know if DigiKey offer a tray counter. Don't quote me on that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but certainly Farnell and RS in
I'm sure the population there doesn't really play to their benefit,
no, so what? I've got to get off my couch and
that's true. Get going, man.
Yeah, I know. So
lazy Aussies.
Yeah. And so I've got to get parts, and this is my new power supply. I'm quite excited. I've already got a few revisions that I want to do, but anyway, this one will be close enough that I can build up, and I've scrapped my ones from IT Studios. They're no good. They took a month to get here, and by the time they took 5 weeks to get here, I'd already figured, I want to change things, and well, there was no point building it up. I got them like a week ago, but isn't that
crazy how you can you'll send it off and then you'll just be crunching on it. You'll stand in the shower thinking about it.
And you go,
crap, I forgot this.
I forgot this, and I want to add this feature. Oh, that'd be nice. I'll do that instead. Or
I wish there was some kind of meditation technique that allowed you to kind of compress all that into an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be nice.
Getting boards right on the first spin is an art. I think.
Yeah. Well,
especially when it's your own project and you're developing it as you go along. And
right, yeah.
And we've talked about it before. You can't check your own stuff, and
if boards are cheap too, then there's not as much incentive, right? If boards are $1,000, then
that's right. It's a big difference. And when I was a boy, you couldn't get a cheap board like this. It was unheard of for a hobbyist to get a professionally made board. They were thousands of dollars if you wanted to get one made. And this was up until probably the end of the 90s.
Yeah.
You know, I would say, you know, maybe mid-90s.
Yeah, and I knew engineers who would insist on having everything right, and it's like, come on, man, it's cheaper to just spin the board a couple times because we know it's going to happen anyways. It's better that than spend 2 months and then have to spin the board another 2 months later. So it's kind of a mindset thing now too. So it's hopefully it doesn't go back the other direction because a lot of younger engineers would be screwed.
And we've talked about it before, I'm sure, but it's so important to have something in your hands. Yeah. You know, like you can have your circuit board on the screen, you've got your 3D model, and you've got all that.
Yeah.
But nothing beats actually building the damn thing up and having a board and having a go at it.
Thank you so much. Now I have an excuse to link in my article from this weekend. You were just the nicest guy.
I am. That's just me.
You are. All right, we should get going. It's getting there.
Yeah, we're 5 minutes past. We're low on our capacity, and I've got to race off to get some parts.
Go
if
get
they're
some
in
parts.
stock, will I get thwarted by Murphy again? No, they won't have the chip I need.
No, I hope not.
Guarantee you. Oh, yeah, it's in stock, but it's in our Singapore warehouse, you know. Yeah, thanks a lot. Anyway, can't complain. At least I'm based in Sydney, where their main warehouse is for Farnell and RS. So
yeah, if you're based in Boston, I would tell you, go off to J-Car and get some parts.
That sounded New Zealand, which is very apt for today's show.
Yeah, there you go. Well, don't ask those guys either.
Oh, boy.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya. And we stayed on topic for like half an hour.
And we talked about electronics.
Yeah, we did. It was all,
Crazy.